Okay, we are live. Okay. So I'm back and we're about to go into the software to kind of show you how things are routed inside of the software. We took a look at the physical wiring, which is pretty basic. Each Dante enabled device is plugged into a switch that is also connected to the internet, which allows you, like me with my laptop now, even though it's wireless, it's connected to the same network. I'm going to be able to turn on the software and actually control and address each device. So we're going to take a look at that right now. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then I'm going to open up the app is the Dante controller. So you can download, that's a free download. And once you turn this on, my units are already set up, but you'll be able to take a look at them. At first, when you first turn it on, you should be able to see, in this case, I have two devices and I've named them. But if you're setting up multiple devices, the easiest way to initially access them is plug them in one at a time so that you can distinguish between the two. Give each a independent name. Before you start routing it, it's important to name them something that makes sense, because if you start doing a bunch of routing and then you try to rename your devices, then it's going to start all over. So if I go over here, like for instance, if I select this one, this is our front of house wing. When I go over here to device info, I can click on this front of house and that'll bring up this screen. It's showing me currently all my inputs and outputs, but I can also do device configuration. And this is where I can name the device. I think that's right. Where's my name? Right there. This is where you can name it, give it an independent name. And as far as I can tell, this software actually is making changes on each individual device in the network. So the good thing about that is that once I'm done configuring it, I'm gonna unplug each device from the router that's connecting me to the internet, and I'm gonna plug them into a device. You don't have to have the internet to run them, but it does help when you're setting them up because they do have to be registered. All right, so that's that. And from here, routing them is pretty straightforward. If we go over to the routing section, down here are the receiving channels, and over here are our transmitting channels. So for instance, if I'm wanting to send channels from front of house to the stream, the front of house would be the transmitter and the stream would be the receiver. And the reverse is true. If I want to send 64 channels from the stream to the front of house, in that case, the streaming wing would be the transmitter and the front of house would be the receiver. And in this case, we actually want to have a bidirectional relationship. I want to be able to send 64 channels to the streaming wing, and I want to be able to send 64 channels back. And that simply is accomplished by, for instance, if I want to first look at the stream and I want to look at the channels receiving to that. Now I've set these all up, but if I go over here, my front of house is the transmitter. The wing stream is the receiver. So if I go in here and I hit the plus button, now all of the channels we can see are routed. And usually in most cases, you're just going to see a nice little diagonal line where it's a one-to-one relationship where channel one is routing to channel one, so on and so on. So those are working out perfectly. Now the reverse is also true. So if I hit the minus here and I say, okay, now I want to make sure that the wing is receiving, the front of house wing is receiving all the channels from the transmitter. So again, I go to that line and then I go over to my second column here. I go to this column and I hit the plus, and then I see all of those. This takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's pretty straightforward. Did that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the columns up here, these are the transmitting channels and these are the receiving. So you basically just want to expand what you want in order to be able to set the routing. And then once that routing is set, these Dante cards are set up. They're ready to go, absolutely ready to go. And then what we want to do here is just, now I'm going to unplug those same channels out of the router back into the switch. And so we're going to go live one more time. Actually, we'll stay live. I will join this with my phone, but hang on a second. Let me Let me go ahead and stop screen sharing. I'm going to join this with my phone. And then we'll finish this up with looking at the last change I'm going to make. If I can find Zoom. All right. Okay, I took over that meeting. All right, now I'll flip our camera around. If I can figure out where I'll flip it around here. Oops, no, that just turned it off. How do I flip it around? There we go. There we go. Okay, now we're in the back of here again. Again, just to remind, this wing card is plugged into the router, and the streaming one, which is plugged into this optical converter, is plugged into another port. So we're just going to take that. Would you hold that for me and I'll make the change and just, all right. So we're going to take this, and it doesn't really matter what open port on the LAN these go to. So I'm going to plug the front house wing into that one, and I'm going to plug the second wing there. So both wings are now plugged in, and this is just a switch. It's not connected to anything. The only connections to this are the two consoles, and this is just the intermediate point. Okay, now I'm going to take this, and we're going to go back to the streaming room. My buddy Jeremy is going to start talking into the microphone, and we're going to see if we get signal over in we got signal, check. Okay, so we got signal in front of house. So now we're going to go back to the streaming room and just verify that we're in fact getting signal. So we're going to walk all the way back to the streaming room. So he's checking on that mic. And once again, this is a very long distance too. Okay, so now with this channel routed, as you can see, we are getting signal, which is great. So there we are. That's success. We have a Dante connection between the wings. All right, I'm going to be back in a little bit with our next step. Stay